PTC Media, bringing quality scouting podcasts to packs, troops, and crews. Find us on the web at ptcmedia.net.
My brother Scouts, I want to remind you in a very few words of what your duty is as Scouts. Apart from merely living in camp, cooking your own grub, and playing Scout games.
Hello, Scouts and Scouters, and welcome to another episode of Scout Nation. I'm Scoutmaster Brian.
And I'm Scoutmaster Sean.
And we are here to talk all things Boy Scouts once again. This is episode 3, so we're on our third month, and we're really getting into a groove now. So thank you guys for sending in a lot of comments and requests, and we're really appreciating it, and you're helping us out a lot, and hopefully we're helping you out. So let's start the show with our chat session wrap-up. We had our first Scout Nation chat the other day, and I'd say there was about 10 or 12 of us on there, and although initially when Sean and I talked about it, we wanted to use it as a platform to kind of get some feedback and some show ideas for you guys. And we did, and we appreciate it. But what it really turned into was a virtual roundtable where people came on and we started talking scouting, and it became the meeting after the meeting after the meeting. But this time it wasn't in the parking lot; it was in cyberspace. And a couple of questions were asked, some good questions, and a couple of scouters just jumped right in, and even one scout and answered. And I learned something. I don't know if Sean did. But a couple of us learned some things about OA and how to deal with certain parents, and we kind of touched on our helicopter parent episode, and it was a really good time. I enjoyed myself a lot. Sean, you have a good time last chat session?
Yeah, we had some really good feedback. We had some, like I said, we had some help. Kevin was really good in explaining some OA stuff to us, and I think that helped out a lot.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And we had actually talked about it earlier that day that we were kind of both in a grumpy old scouter when we just decided we weren't going to do that, and it actually turned out to be a pretty good chat session that night. It wasn't anything that was long, and we didn't get 50 topics to do the next 50 shows or anything, but we got some really good information. We got to see some people that I've never seen in the chat room before.
That was really nice.
Pretty cool because it's new faces and asking questions, and at the end of the Q&A session, I felt like we helped a couple of guys. So that was the main thing that we were trying to draw out of it, and maybe take in our quote unquote negative scouting energy that we had that day, and that we were just able to turn that around and help a couple guys out. And in the meantime, put together something that I think might be a once a month thing for us.
I think so. I really enjoyed it, and it was nice to see some different faces or names, some that we know from Twitter, but some that just have been listening to the show and saw that we were going to do a chat and jumped on. So you know what, Sean, how's April 8th sound?
I think April 8th should work for me. Let me check my calendar. Ma says that it's all right. I think April 8th should work. What are we going to talk about that night? Are we just going to get in the chat room again and just kind of go from there?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get in the chat room and talk from there. How about April 8th, sometime in the evening around 9:30? Watch our Twitter feeds. Both Sean and I will open up the chat room over at the ptcmedia.net chat room. We'll open her up and come on and chat some scouting. And maybe we'll touch on some feedback from tonight's show, and we'll let what develops. Hey, what's that meeting after the meeting after the meeting in the parking lot for? It's for whatever is going on in your corner of Scout Nation. That chat will be on April 8th. Speaking of your corner of Scout Nation, let's do a little troop news. Sean, you have been doing anything since last we met for episode number 2?
Nothing.
No. Okay. All right, next
Nothing at all. Next topic? No, actually, we've had some more boards to review, so 3 out of my 4 original scouts have advanced to tenderfoot, including my son Ethan.
Excellent.
One of the other boys, he's a step and a half away, but he misses a couple things, like when we're going to test for the physical fitness aspects and stuff like that. What these guys don't realize, too, is that they're literally steps away from second class and first class also. That they've been working on cumulative tenderfoot second class, first class requirements for the last year. So I'm not too concerned with that first class and the first year thing. That's not really... I think that's something that we're going to talk about later, either later on this show or another show. I know you and I had discussed it, but that's neither here nor there. With my new scouts, they're kind of figuring out real fast that, based upon the title of our last show, that Akela ain't here. There ain't no Akela here. This isn't the same as Cub Scouts. It's a lot different show. It's more self-paced, and it's not so much of a I have to show Mr. Cleary what I've done. It's, Sean and I are going to talk about what we're working on, that type of thing. So it's not a teacher-student type thing. It's more of a, mentor and advisor type role. And the boys are starting to understand that. Fundraisers, I've been talking about fundraisers, and I think we've touched base on that in one of our first 2 shows also, but we've got a Chicken Booyah fundraiser coming up, and if people don't know what a booyah is, it's a really good soup, and you sell it by the gallon, and people come and bring their ice cream pails, and then they buy it, and it's a really good fundraiser in this area.
You crazy cheesehead.
Yeah, it is. It works really well, and it's you don't just cook it in a 3-gallon pot. You cook it over an open fire in a 50-gallon drum, and you get to get out the power tools with the salad shooter and cut up all the vegetables and.
I can't. You better take some photos and post them on your website, because I'd love to see those.
We will.
That'd be really cool.
We will, and we do it. This is going to be our first one with the Moose Lodge, and the Moose Lodge has really pulled through as a great charter organization for us, and I'm going to touch on that later on too. We're also going to do candy bars. We're going to do a brat sale early this summer, and the reason that we're doing all these fundraisers now is because we didn't really get to do them last year. We couldn't figure out what we needed to do. But another reason that we're doing it is because we have 7 to 8 out of our 10 scouts in the troop attending summer camp, and they all need to buy tents and stoves and sleeping bags and backpacks and things of that nature. So we're trying to get some of the funding for them and help offset those costs.
Hey, a scout is thrifty.
A scout is thrifty, and to be honest with you, because I lie to you all the time, our Booyah fundraiser, we have the chance to put about $1,000 in the kids' accounts with that sale, and if this goes up, it is, and we're looking at maybe doing this twice a year, and if it does actually go off twice a year with proper advertising and everything that we do, we could very well do. Right now, we're planning on doing 2 50-gallon kettles. We could start doing 3 and 4 kettles at a time. And yeah, really, for lack of a better term, clean up. So we do have one new scout, and it's kind of an odd one. And I'm going to put this out here because I want people to give me their input and give us their input on this one. And I know you and I had talked about it, but he's a new scout. He's a brand new scout, never been in the program. But he's only 10. He's in the 5th grade, and he's only 10. He doesn't turn 11 until August. So knowing the requirements to join a Boy Scout troop. Finished with the 5th grade, 11 years old, or 10 and a half with the Arrow of Light. Well, he doesn't have enough.
Which he's not.
Yeah, he's not going to have a chance to get the Arrow of Light. So we don't have a Weeblos 2 den for him to go to from the pack. The school that he attends, they don't have a Cub Scout pack. Our pack no longer has a Weeblos 2 den. Those guys are all crossed over. The Weeblos 2 den leader actually is now a committee member on the pack committee. So what we're doing is we're actually going to register this boy as a Weeblos 2 with the Cub Scout pack. His den meetings are going to consist of troop visits, where he will come to the troop with his parent, and we will work with him, and being that I'm still charter with the pack and assistant cub master with the pack, I will, for lack of a better term, be his leader, and I'll coach him through the things that he needs to know anyways, the knots, the oath, the law, and everything else. And then in June when school's
Probably
over,
get his arrow of light that way too.
well, it's the time frame. The time frame is 6 months with the Arrow of Light. That's the big one. And he's going to be done with school in 3 months. June 5th, 6th, or 7th, somewhere in there, he's going to be done with school. So he's really only going to have to be a quote-unquote Webelos 2 for about 2.5 months. A little over two and a half months. So with that, is it shady? I thought it was, but in the same sense, I got that information from an assistant district commissioner, and he's a straight arrow guy. Yeah.
And it keeps a boy interested in scouting until he can cross over.
Well, and that was the discussion, that if we pushed him off until June, there could have been the possibility that he didn't want. But this is also going to give Mom and Grandma the time to see if this is something that he really wants to do. Cause,
since he's never been involved before.
Yeah, you and I both know that it's really hard to get a scout straight out of, never been to Cub Scouts before and just joining the troop. That doesn't happen very often. So doing what we can do to get him integrated now and get him back into, just ease him in. And plus he's going to hang around with them guys. So I think he'll do pretty well. I'm actually thinking that, we can discuss this further, but I'm actually thinking about putting him with the experienced guys in their patrol and talking to them and see how they'd want to work that out. But I think we got something to talk about that a little bit later. Anyways, I've been rambling for like 5 minutes. I figure I'll do that on this show because I'm feeling a heck of a lot better.
Yes,
and that's
not the ramble fest that I had last.
Well, but we understood that why we wanted you to talk last time, because I was so under the weather. I was just out of it. I'm surprised that show came out of the editing booth the way it did. I was just loopy, and
I think it sounded all right. I think it sounded okay. But then again, I like the sound of my voice.
So do I. It's the soothing sounds of Scoutmaster Brian and Sean. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for troop news with me. Anything going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, right when we recorded last time, we had our troop elections, and we got a new SPL and his PLC. So we did our troop leader training weekend. Lots of different people do their TLT differently. The Boy Scouts National has it in a 3 different sections, and we've incorporated the old JLT with some White Stag / NYLT stuff and the new troop leader training material, and we make an entire weekend. So we leave, the PLC leaves Friday night, and we come home Sunday morning, and it's just myself, an assistant scoutmaster who's the grub master as well, 2 Deep Leadership, and the PLC. So we had 24 guys in a cabin. That's the PLC. And we did some intense scout leadership training. Did a lot of team building and some bonding, and had a really good time. And I'll just stop there because I've had a lot of people ask me about our TLT program, and I will. I think we'll discuss this later on for at a different show at a different time. But TLT weekend went incredibly well, and everybody had a blast. And this PLC is roaring out the gate and just doing incredibly well. Let's see. I went to Roundtable.
I think we're gonna have to. I think we have to have a show here with abbreviation terms.
That's true. TLT's troop leader training. Well, we'll do that next. I'll try.
But you know what
acronym.
The funny thing is that when you're talking with a scouter, you can throw all them terms around, and everybody knows what it means. Oh, we had TLT this past weekend and our PLC was tonight. On Thursday, and it's our RT, and then we got a couple of BORs. But we should be good. Nice. And you know what? Every scouter knows exactly what you're saying. They're like, oh yeah, you just kind of laugh and chuckle about it.
Well, it's funny because we had our district dinner, and got some awards handed out. One of our assistant scoutmasters earned the Silver Beaver Award. One of our assistant scoutmasters earned the Hornaday Award, and we had a really good district dinner honoring a lot of our very dedicated scouters, including a 50-year pin to one scouter and a 60-year pin to another. And I got called out a couple of times because we've got a couple of listeners in my district, and they wanted to know when the meeting after the meeting was starting. And I said, right now, let's go. And we went outside in the parking lot, and we did just that. We just talked about scouting and Wood Badge and what was going on and the new Scout Nation show, and got a couple more guys on Twitter. So that was fun. Scout-wise, we had an Eagle Court of Honor for our 80th Eagle in the troop, which was a really, really excellent ceremony. It was a very nice, deserving Eagle Scout, and we all said some really kind words about him, and he said some kind words about us who give our time and effort to the program. So it was a great ceremony, and it was nice to see a lot of scouts there, and we even got a couple of first years to pop their head in and see what's in store for them. And then on a personal,
I was going to say, is there anything else regarding the Eagles that we need to talk about, or probably not?
Oh yeah, because personal note, my son finally finished his Eagle project that he's been working on since last October. And matter of fact, this past weekend we spent pretty much the entire weekend finishing her out. He has a bell, an actual bell. Did some research, found out it was cast on September 11th, 1880. That's 1880, so it's over 130 years old. That hasn't been used since 1968 for a local. It's called the Little Sisters of the Poor. It's a retirement home for old people and clergy, and the nuns take care of them. And they had this bell that they used to use for call to prayer and call to meetings, and they haven't rung it in over 30 years. So my son took it and has refinished it, scraped it back down to her original shine, little luster there, and built a new well to hang the bell in, and we finally got her all put in Sunday afternoon around 4 o'clock after a lot of hard work by a lot of dedicated scouts and scouters, and we just couldn't be prouder. We're very proud of him, and I was wishing it would done a little earlier since he turns 18 in March, in this month.
Ouch.
But he's all good to go. He's been, I don't mind Eagle Scouts like that, especially when, well, A, they're my son, but B, he wasn't laying around, just like that 80th Eagle Scout as well. He was a senior patrol leader, a troop guide. Wasn't one of those guys that did all of his scouting and then disappeared and then showed
Your
up
son
2 years later.
He's busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. With band and all of his other commitments, and getting ready to head off to Indiana State, who, by the way, is in the big dance. I saw that.
They are in the big dance. Yeah, actually tonight he's at the junior high. The junior high has their band concert tonight, and he's over there giving a performance and talking to some of their percussionists about joining marching band this summer. So, yeah, he's pretty busy, and he's giving back, but we couldn't be prouder. And then finally, on troop note, we had our first meeting with the new scouts. We had 31 crossovers this year. 31 scouts crossed over to Troop 199. And our first meeting, we grabbed them all,
30.
and I took them with the troop guys,
Wow.
and we played the game Everybody Up.
Okay.
You ever play Everybody Up?
I've got 9 kids in my troop, so everybody's up all the time.
Well, you could play Everybody Up. It's a really neat team building game, and the troop guides took them and put them in little circles of 4 and 5. And you sit on the floor, and you lock arms and you lock feet, and everybody's got to stand up without letting go of the person next to them. And then once you get it down, the group keeps on building and building, so that circle of 4 becomes a circle of 8, becomes a circle of 16. And we had all 31 Weeblos, no longer Weeblos. We had all 31 first-year scouts sitting in a big circle trying to help each other get up, and everybody got up, and it was a sight to see, and they had a lot of fun, and that's our topic for tonight. We're finally getting to it. Our main topic tonight is those first-year scouts. We're going to talk about them. How do we set up the patrols? How do we train them? How do we maintain them? So what do we do with our first-year scouts? And I think at this point it really doesn't matter if you're 88, or 188. What do you do with those guys? So when do your crossovers? And I know you touched on it in your troop news, but Sean, when do your crossovers join the troop?
This was actually my first real true year of crossovers. Mine actually came as soon as they earned their Arrow of Light, which was back in December. They played it right to the 6 months from finishing the 4th grade. The boys that did come over, and they basically threw on their dress blues or changed into their Cub blues for the crossover ceremony, and did that. I had boys, a couple that came as soon as they earned their Arrow of Light. I had one that didn't show up for about a month. He kind of took a month off. So when it comes to crossover, I guess for me, it's when they're ready. Being that I am small like I am, it has its advantages. It's a lot easier. But in the same sense, I have the confusion of 5 different scouts looking at each other going, what are we working on? What are we doing? Where are we going? I'm not understanding this. So a lot of it is you need to read the introduction to your book. You need to read the introduction to your book. But you need to read the introduction to your book. So, Mr. Cleary, so Mr. Cleary, what you're telling me is that I should read my book. Robert, and Robert's my senior patrol leader. What am I going to tell you when they ask questions? Read the book.
Read the book.
And it works.
Maybe it does matter depending on the size then, because you're trying to grow. So as soon as your guys are ready to cross over, you want to grab them because it helps with your overall troop function.
Oh, without a doubt.
The more guys you have, the better.
That's the biggest one. It's, I want them to cross right away. Now, for you, I would imagine that it's
a little different. What we do is we have them all come together at one meeting, and that's always the first meeting of March. Our March is our new scout month. So even if they cross over in January or February, which is what the normal time frame is for us here in central Indiana, they don't officially, quote-unquote, become part of the troop until the first meeting of March. Now, they've come.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a bunch of the Weeblos that once they've crossed over show up, and they get included, and they play some games, and we attach them to different patrols and let them see what patrol life is like. But for us, our philosophy is if everybody crosses over at the same time, especially when you've got 31 guys. We had 35 last year and 22 the year before that.
Mm-hmm.
It helps with the bonding of the patrol. They all come over. They're all confused. They're all looking around. They all don't know what to do. And to the left and to the right of them is someone in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it helps. We have some really good troop guides, and they have a program that they run. And the structure is then there that they can keep track of. They have their program, and one teaches the Scout Oath, and one teaches the Scout Law, and one teaches the Square Knot, and they can really keep track of who's doing what and who needs extra help and who's not quite getting it. And you right away see that bonding, not only of New Scout with New Scout, but you see that bonding with these guys are looking up to these troop guides. and these troop guides are helping them out, and they really get introduced to that scout run philosophy. Whereas we've had a couple, and it's happened at least twice that in recent memory, where we've had guys that earned their Arrow of Light in November and then crossed over. And what happens is they get attached to another patrol because they're here for months. So they get attached to a first-year patrol from the previous March, and it throws off the whole dynamic. Now all of a sudden you got a new guy in there, and the first years are still, they've bonded as a patrol. They've been together for 8-9 months. They've been camping together, and then here comes this new guy. And they're welcoming, and they help them out, and this new guy gets to experience scouting, and he enjoys scouting. But then a couple of months later, the rest of his friends from his den shows up. So now what? Do you yank him out of that patrol that he's been working with now for 4 or 5 months and throw him back into the quote-unquote first-year patrol with all of his friends where he wants to be? And what happened with us was you had that risk where he was better off with the older patrol because now he was more experienced, and the program that they were going through on that March patrol that came in, he already knew, so now he was getting bored. And I already did this, I already did that. So I want to go hang out with my new patrol, but I want to be in this patrol with my friends. And eventually the boy just stopped coming because he got confused.
Sure.
He got confused, he got upset. Some adults got involved that probably shouldn't have, and ruined the whole thing. So for us, it just works for us. We have a really good first-year program, so it works for us that, you know what, they might cross over at the end of January, but come visit us if you want, but also you could take that Tuesday night off for the next couple of weeks, because every Tuesday for the next 7 years you got an appointment at a scout meeting. So take those free Tuesdays when you can.
Then because you recruit and you get scouts from different packs, do you just tell them this will be your first official troop meeting on this night, and then you just go from there? Is that how you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. At every crossover, when we send the crossover team over, they've got a little flyer that says, you're welcome to join us, and here's all the information, and meetings are on Tuesday at 7:00, but the first official meeting for you guys will be March 1st, and you'll meet all the other new scouts. You'll get put into your patrol, and then your scouting career really begins right then and there. And that kind of leads to our next issue is patrol formations. When we do it, we make it a first-year patrol. This year we have 30 guys, but I made it 2 patrols of 15.
Okay.
Where that might seem like a lot, because your good patrol is 8 to 12. But I found that we got a lot of active boys. We got a lot of active scouts that scouting is not their only outlet. And they do basketball and baseball and football and track and marching band and music and horse riding and, all sorts of different things that these guys do. So it might be a patrol of 15, but at any given Tuesday, you're going to only have that 8 to 12 because, you know what, it's track season. So the guys who run in the troop aren't there because they got practice every Tuesday night. And then when track season is over, boom, there they are the very next night, and they're in uniform and they're at the meeting. But guess what? Now it's diving season and swim season. So now the guys now all my swimmers are gone because practices are on Tuesday night. So we like to do. So I'm keeping them on a little bigger patrol number, but we make sure that they're grouped by age and grade. I suggested mixed patrols to our scouts when I took over as scoutmaster, and to a man they said no. They want their patrols to be set by grade. They enjoy it because they have the same likes and dislikes. They have the same issues. They're all roughly around the same rank, and they're doing okay. And with the first years, we kind of just make it a random mix. If some of the parents will start emailing me, and they'll say, hey, we want to keep our son with the same people that he was with when he was in his Weeblo's den, and 3 of those guys are coming over. So, I can respect that. But I've also gotten some emails that just said, you know what, put them wherever. They were having some issues with this scout or this scout, or they are best friends with this person, but he was in, Pack 2 and we were in Pack 1, but we're both joining this troop. So can he please be with that scout in his patrol?
Sure.
And I like that.
Sure.
And I'll do that. And it'll pretty much, that patrol will be set, and that patrol will stay like that for their entire scouting career. Outside of mergers, once the patrols lose a couple of scouts or two. If we have to merge, we merge. And I'm also open. I've already had scouts come up to me and say, you know what, I'm in this patrol and I want to swap. Can I go same? I have two patrols of the same scout age, and they're better friends with the patrol over there, with some of the guys over there, and they talk to them. They talk to their patrol and they talk to the other patrol, and they want to do a trade, as it were. My son did that when he was a 3rd year. He just had more friends in a different patrol, and they got along better on campouts and troop meetings, and they wanted to swap, and they talked to each other, and they just did it. And I'm fine with that. How about your patrols? How do you guys form?
Well, once again, being so small, right now it's my original guys came in. They formed a patrol. It's a patrol of 3. The SPL is from that patrol, so he's obviously not a part of that patrol. I try to keep him outside of the patrol activities and keep him steered towards running the whole meeting, as opposed to going hanging out with his buddies. And sometimes that's a little bit more work than I'd like to do. In the same sense, the new guys that just came in, they formed their own patrol. The reason being is because they're all in the same den. Now, typically because I recruit from one pack, that dynamic works for me. For the most part, in my area, we do recruit from just one pack at a time. The whole Weeblos to Scout transition thing does not permeate probably like it does around the rest of the country, whereas go on these troop visits, see what else is out there, all these other different things, and it really makes for the feeder system in this area is really prevalent. So getting back to it, I have one pack that I recruited from this past year. There's a possibility that I will recruit from another pack for this upcoming year. Actually, I'm going to make a phone call to another Weeblos den leader and see where they are at, and see how that dynamic forms, because I know that the boys that are going to be crossing over could be anywhere from 6 to 9, and then if I recruit and work another pack or two, I could look at a recruiting class of anywhere from between 6 and 15 to maybe 20. Well, then the whole dynamic steers me differently, and I'll probably be looking back at show 3 and going, I guess Brian had the right thing. But with the way my patrols are set up now, the boys set them up. They're by grade. I think the biggest thing that they're figuring it out is they've all decided that they want to stay with their friends for right now. There hasn't been any talk of, well, I want to go to the lightning patrol or I want to go to the duct tape patrol. I'm going to stick here. So,
right.
If they specifically request that, there's not been a lot, but right now they're all learning. They're still learning this whole new, we're in the same troop, but we're not in the same patrol, but the patrols do inter-patrol activities. Whereas,
right.
We didn't do inter-den activities. Heck, we saw you once a month at the pack meeting if we were lucky.
Right. Totally different dynamic.
Yeah.
It's such a, we've talked about it before. It's such a different thing. But how do those new scouts learn all those skills, though?
Well, for me, I've got a troop guide, and I also have a dedicated assistant scoutmaster who helps that troop guide. Let me explain this. I would still consider my program Weeblos 2.5. I mean, there's really a lot of adult help, and it has to be, because They have to be trained.
Well, when you only have tenderfoot scouts.
Right. And when you have tenderfoot scouts and you have boys that, for lack of a better term, didn't get the full Weebles program like they should have when they were in the pack, it makes a big difference in their learning and learning what the boys who were in my troop actually had a different den leader who was very hands-off and very, we don't do any of the Boy Scout stuff in Weeblos den meetings because you'll do that when you get to the troop. Yeah, and he left in the beginning of their 5th grade year. So his assistant took over, and we really kind of had to pound him, for lack of a better term, and work a lot with doing that kind of stuff. So we have a troop guide, and the troop guide is actually my son, Ethan. Ethan is he's a great kid, but Ethan is not a leader. He chooses not to be a leader. He likes to be the guy. He's your backseat driver. He's the mother-in-law scout. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. So I put him in his troop guide. Now, me guiding him and helping to train him does not work so much. The SPL obviously needs training, so he can't do as much training as he'd like to. So our balance with, and my balance with Ethan is that my assistant scoutmaster, Mark, works with Ethan. And it's actually working towards a very good dynamic. Mark has a way of teaching Ethan so that Ethan turns around and teaches the new scouts. For the most part, Ethan will spend the troop meetings with his patrol, but at certain instructional times, Ethan will come over and help the new guys with, this is where this is in the book, or he'll show them a hands-on demonstration. There's always a guy there to do a hands-on demonstration for the new guys. So the other patrol, in all actuality, is probably a whole group of teachers, but I have one dedicated troop guide.
See, now we're kind of the same. We use troop guides, and I kind of break. We try to have at least one troop guide per new patrol, and for that first 6 months, we really like to have at least 2 troop guides. Last year, we had 3 patrols and 6 troop guides, so it worked out really well. And it's we have 2 assistant scoutmasters that assist them and kind of head that entire program. And this is where I step a little bit out of the how do you say, scout run box. I'm a little bit hypocritical on the troop guides because I go after them. I'm a big fan of Scout Run. That's how we do our thing. But the troop elects the SPL, and the patrols elect their patrol leaders, and the SPL picks his assistants and the scribe and the quartermasters and all that other stuff. But when it comes to troop guide, I really think it's a very important position, especially that first 6 months. And I will go after, now scouts do volunteer to do it, but I will go after certain scouts that I think can do it and can do a really good job, because I think a troop guide has to have a really special demeanor and a really good way with words and working with younger scouts. So I'll go after and hand pick some troop guides. Now, then they'll go to the SPL, and I'll tell the SPL, I say, listen, these are the guys that I think will make really good troop guides, and that would be my suggestion. And generally the SPL listens. And occasionally we get, I got about two last year that I didn't even weren't even on my radar to be troop guides, and they came up and they said, I want to be a troop guide. And I said, all right, give it a shot. And this one guy turned out to be an incredible mentor for not only his patrol that he was a troop guide for, but then that troop guide became a patrol leader and really helped out the new patrol leader of the patrol that he was a troop guide for, if you could follow that.
Clear as mud.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what you're getting at, I hate to cut you off because, damn, you just talk so much. Troop guide is kind of like an entry-level position for working your way up. Even though it's still a leadership position towards, for Lifestar and Eagle, it's still a nice stepping stone to get into the patrol leader, the assistant senior patrol leader, the senior patrol leader, for those who haven't, because not to bash a teacher, but those who can't, do teach. And I find that with Ethan that he's a very good troop guide, even though, he is only a tenderfoot scout. That's definitely not a drawback, because, they've been scouts for a year and they aren't first class, which is, a whole other story.
I'll go one further on that. I tell any guy that comes up to me and has aspirations of being a senior patrol leader, I tell him to be a troop guide. In a troop our size, the young scouts are numerous, and the young scouts, you have those first, second-year scouts on your side voting for you. You're the next senior patrol leader. And I tell them, who are they going to vote for? Are they going to vote for the patrol leader of the oldest patrol, who they see every once in a while and comes out and does a skills demo, or, they see them and they're like, wow, those are the big guys. Those are, they're cool, but they're always hanging out in their own patrol area. Or are they going to vote for the guy that's been spending the past 6 months helping them learn knots, signing off their book, being a cheerleader for them, helping them with their tents, and just teaching them how to be a scout? I'm like, who do you think they're going to vote for? And as a matter of fact, our last SPL was a troop guide, and he has aspirations to be a SPL again, so he's back to being a troop guide. And I told him, I said, if you run for SPL in another 6 months or so, I think it'll happen, because he's a really good troop guide. He really cares about those first year scouts, and they learn to love him. And if he stood up there and said, I want to be your senior patrol leader, they know he can lead, because he had been doing it for the past 6 months with them. So it's a great program, and it's a very important position for your troop. And that brings us to,
well, let me ask you this:
the job of the troop guide.
Okay.
According to National, the job of the troop guide, according to National, is to get the scout to first class in his first year.
What's your thought on that?
My thought is really mixed. I have I have some issue with it. I know it's the national policy, and I'll tell you what, that's what we do. That's what national policy is, and we follow that. And our troop guides and our ASMs, our assistant scoutmasters, have a really good program that'll get those guys there to first class in first year. However, with some people, I think it sends the wrong message. Especially those check-off parents, the ones that you know them. They come up to you during a troop meeting or after a troop meeting and say, "Hey, my son did this, my son did that, my son did that. Can you sign his book? He needs a Scoutmaster conference because he's all ready."
Not to be confused with the helicopter parent, or are they?
No, not to be confused with it. No, you know what? I think they're a different breed of helicopter parent, I think. And first class and first year, I'll just say that it's a good program. It's a really good idea, but for some, I think it sends the wrong message, and that's not what scouting is about. Scouting is not about getting that patch. That's not the only thing. Eagle Scout is not the ultimate goal of scouting. The ultimate goal of scouting is to create men who will make good ethical and moral choices in the future, and instilling in them with those values of the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Advancement is one of those methods.
Mm-hmm. Well, you hear, the joke is an 18-year-old tenderfoot. Is it really a joke? If you have an 18-year-old tenderfoot, that means he's been with the program for 7 years.
If you have an 18-year-old tenderfoot, he's not trying.
If you have an 18-year-old tenderfoot, that just means he's out to have a good time. That's my opinion. Because if he's stuck with scouting for 7 years, and only
that's true. If he's active, and we when I first joined the troop, we had a guy who was aging out, and I think he was second class.
Mm-hmm.
He had no intention of advancing. He wasn't there for the advancement. He was there for camping. He was there. He had a good time. He had good friends.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really a disruptive. I mean, I didn't know him well, but he wasn't what you would consider a troublemaker. He wasn't in it for the patch.
Right.
He was in it for the experience. And you know what? That's not such a bad.
And don't get me wrong, I wasn't trying to stir the pot or start an argument, but we are only 5 hours apart, and if we have to meet 2.5 hours in between to duke it out, I guess we can do that. But I'm actually in the same thought with you. Is it required by National? No. Do they have a form? Yes. But I agree. First year, first class, it's too, to me, it's too regimented. It's a bit too, you have to do this week, you have to do this next week, you have to do this next week, and so on and so forth. Well, you know what? I like to bowl. I'm taking my guys bowling this weekend, or however it works out. Maybe you can't get a troop swim in where you can get that required swimming. There's things along that path that are, whether they're roadblocks because they're there for whatever reason due to scheduling conflicts or lost troop meetings or whatever it may be, or the fact that you're going, I'm not going to checkbox all this stuff. I think it's a good thought, but in all essence, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm not going to punish anybody. But in the same sense, if somebody's going to say to me, your guys have been in the troop for 1.5 years now and you don't have any first-class scouts, no,
Right.
But they're still here and they're having a blast.
And they're having a blast, and they're working at their pace. And I'll tell you that our guys are very successful, and a majority of our scouts will make first class around that first year. Some are early. I got some go-getters that they're ready for first class right after summer camp, and they're good to go. And man, they just love the heck out of scouting and are so active, and they're just raring to go. And then you got some that just do other things. They're a well-rounded youth. They're doing other things, and they're not able to keep up and go on all the campouts because they're doing other things. And so what? They make it in 15 months. They make it in 18 months. Does it make them any less of a first-class scout? No. And my final thought on that is, I absolutely love the new handbook.
Oh, it's
because
phenomenal.
The new handbook took the focus off of advancement.
Yes.
And put the focus back on where it belongs.
Yes.
Skills.
And
all the skills are together, and you're learning skills, and it takes the air out of the balloons of those checkbox parents, because the way the old book was set up,
yes,
they could just page 1 check, page 2 check, page 3 check, give me the patch. Now it's set up so that it really is almost a field guide for scouting, and I just love the heck out of it.
It is.
That's all I'll say.
No, that's probably a good show topic for down the road, because the new book, I've never had to work with the old book. I've read the old book and gone through it, and I was like, wow, this really kind of sucks. No offense, National, but I kind of thought the old book sucked, where it was page 1, check, 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 page 2, check, check, check. I'm not doing a mic check here. I'm trying to raise a scout. But the skill set the way I have now, the scoutcraft, the woodcraft, and the campcraft sections are phenomenal. I've even turned those into Jeopardy PowerPoints, and my guys love them. And it works. It really works, and they're learning something. And at the end of the day, it's like you've thrown all this knowledge at them, whether it's hands-on knowledge or, teaching textbook-type knowledge, and put it all together. And then all of a sudden, once you start, it's like cooked spaghetti, but once you start straightening out that spaghetti and you find out, wow, I'm 7/8 done with tenderfoot. I'm 3/4 done with second class. I'm 2/3 done with first class. And it's those little steps that need to be taken. All of a sudden, it's like tenderfoot, done. Second class, done. First class, done. And you're right there. And so that's why I don't agree with this whole checkbox thing. I'm not a paperwork type of guy. I'm a computer type of guy. And a lot of that, a lot of those things focus on the doing all your outings and campouts and stuff like that. And with the campouts and things, have you really had any problems with campouts?
Well, there's two things with that first camp out is very important. I tell all my existing scouts before the first years get there, I tell them, listen, our March camp out is our first camp out with these new guys, and a majority of them will decide whether or not they continue to scout with us based on this camp out, based on their experience. If they have a terrible experience, they're never going camping again. There's a good shot. So what the first thing we do is we have kind of a checklist that we review with some of the older scouts, and some of it also falls on the parents. We want to make sure that those first years are taught the right type of gear to bring, and that falls on the troop guides and the patrols. The right type of gear and you're having a great weekend. The wrong type of gear and you're cold and you're wet and you're miserable and you don't want to be there. So those older scouts take upon themselves, and they make sure that those guys know what type of gear to bring.
Mm-hmm.
They also look out for homesickness. For a lot of these guys, they might have gone Weeblo camping, but Boy Scout camping is different. Mom and Dad aren't there, and if they are there, they're on a different site. They're not within eyesight. They're not right next to them or even in the same tent. They're in another campsite. That's how we do it, and it's on myself and an assistant scoutmaster or two, but it's also on those older scouts to watch out for that homesickness.
Mm-hmm.
The troop guides are right there, helping them out. It's like I don't want to see. I tell them, I said, I don't want to see a new scout struggle. So if you see a new scout having trouble with a tent before he reaches that level of frustration that can lead to tears, get over there right away.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it for him. But help him. Say, hey, you know what? It's here's a trick that I learned on my second camp out, and boom, 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 there goes the rain fly and it's up. Here's what I learned, and how to stuff a sleeping bag into a sack, because you get these first years and you look at them and they're 55 pounds soaking wet, and they're trying to stuff their dad's military duffel bag filled with a 10-pound flannel sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And it's just exploding all over the place. Well, help them out. And then the big thing for the first camp out is watch those attending parents. That's my job and my committee chair's job, because we invite all the parents. We want them to be there so they could see what the camping experience is, but we want it to be like a zoo that they watch from afar. And that you jump in there real quick when they start to head over there with the first time their son starts to get frustrated or upset or comes running looking for mommy and daddy. If it's something serious, you understand. But if he's needing help packing something, you jump in right away and you say, hey, look at Bobby over there. Bobby looks like he's free. Hey, Bob, can you help New Scout Johnny here finish up putting his tent away while me and New Scout Johnny's dad go work on the trailer or something?
Mm-hmm.
And it really pushes home that, scouting is different from Weeblos and Cub Scouts, and you got to depend on each other. You can't depend on mom and dad, because the skill set's supposed to be yours, and you got to learn it. And that's some of the things we look out for on that first camp out. How about you guys?
Well, for me on my first camp outs, the scouts were fine. I think my scouts were actually looking forward to getting away from their parents. Some of the moms were, teary-eyed. Oh, my little boy's going away on his first trip, that type thing. And we travel to these sites, and my son doesn't ride with me. He rides with two other scouts, and I prefer to break it up so that I have a good structure, so that we talk on the way to these campouts, so that I can feel out any fears, or what's your concerns coming into this weekend, what are you hoping to take out of this weekend. And those things really help out in how I speak with each of the different scouts. We, a lot of our stuff centers around our meals, and because of our first camp setups and things of that nature are kind of loosey-goosey. We just, like I said, centered around the meals with not a lot of structured. activities or campfire programs. We just really wanted the guys to get used to being out there, get used to being out in the woods. This is what it's like. You're going to hear things out here that you don't hear in town. You're going to hear a coyote howl 600 yards off. You're going to hear an eagle during the day. Get familiar with your surroundings during the day, because at night it's going to look different and you're going to be afraid. So we talk around, and work around those types of things. We set the schedule, but we fill in the blanks as we went. Typically we get up in the morning, we eat our breakfast, and we'll go on a hike. We'll do, we'll go over some stuff in the books. I always tell the boys to bring their books, and we'll do some activities in the morning. And then we get ready for lunch, we eat,
Right.
and then we'll do some more activities in the afternoon. We get ready for dinner, and then we take our time. We wind down, gather up some wood, get everything going for campfire. And the campfire may just consist of sitting around and not really doing a whole lot, or it may consist of, let's tell some stories, let's sing some songs, let's do some, but eventually, and I have it where I have a lot of sixth graders and fifth graders, and typically our conversations go into the toilet. It's the first one where, maybe the scoutmaster, the assistant scoutmaster, has to partake in loosening his belt and maybe some air coming out the bottom. Or it was a really good meal and you're trying to say things, good meal to the cook with a little burp, and you break the ice, and pretty soon it's, the burp and poop and fart jokes and all that stuff, and then your conversations descend real fast. And that's when usually we break it off, and it's like, all right, guys, it's time for bed, if that's what we're going to do. But I've never had the homesickness stuff. I've never run across it, because I've got to, I make sure, boys, hug your mom before you leave. Oh, man, if you don't hug your mom before you leave, we're not leaving. Okay.
Oh, nice.
And
I like a bunch of your ideas there. I like the getting them accustomed to in the daylight, because at night it's going to be different. And I think you don't have a problem with homesickness because you're active. An active scout is a happy scout, and a happy scout is not homesick. So, and where you're a little loosey-goosey, we're a little structured, but being the size that we are, I think we're fortunate that we're able to do that, because what we do is we set up during the day. We have two activities. We have a skill station, and then whatever our activity is. This March, our activity is rockets, so we're going to be building and shooting rockets.
Nice.
And then we're by an observatory, so Saturday night, even though it's going to be a full moon, we're going to hit the observatory and learn about astronomy. And we might not see a lot of stars, but we're sure as heck going to see some craters, and that might be just cooler for a lot of the guys. But the primary activities are skill station. I have 10 patrols plus 2 new patrols.
Okay.
And those 10 patrols, what they do in conjunction with that whole troop guide program, going back to the first class in the first year, the patrols pick a couple of requirements from tenderfoot to first class. They'll pick, fire building, camp gadget, first aid, the nature hike. Each patrol will take a couple of requirements, and they'll set up a station that takes about half an hour.
Okay.
And then what they'll do is, in the morning and then in the afternoon, those new scouts will just rotate through those stations. They'll get introduced. They'll meet all the other older scouts in the troop. They'll learn a skill. They make it fun. They make it a game. And then, when all is said and done, the scouts go, hey, new guy, come here. Bring your book. He opens it up and say, hey, guess what you just did? You just made a camp gadget. Go put that outside your tent, and here, watch this. And he signs off a requirement in his book.
Yep.
What a rush. What a rush for that scout that, A, Mom and Dad have been signing my book since I was a tiger. I do this, I do that, and Mom and Dad sign it. Now here's a scout signing it. Some guy that I've seen in school because, he's a sixth grader. But he's first class, and he's already a second-year scout. And now I see this, I've seen him on the bus, and now he's signing my book because I did a camp gadget.
Yep.
And I'm advancing. Look at this. I went and I had fun, and I did all these great things. And not only did I enjoy myself today, but I'm moving forward in rank, and I'm moving forward in my scout skills, and I'm getting to learn things. And that's how we structure it. We have two things that we're trying out. One thing we tried out last year, and I call it the Scoutmaster lunch. What I like to do is I like to have the adults actually cook lunch for the new scouts. And it's usually just hot dogs and, chips and Jell-O and some bug juice or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of a get-to-know-you with the Scoutmaster. And my rule is for the lunch period, nobody talks about scouting. They're not allowed to talk about scouting. They can ask me anything they want. I'll answer any question any first-year scout asks me. But what I try to do is I'm trying to show these guys that, you know what, we're all scouts here, but we all do different things. Let's talk about the baseball season coming up. Hey, look, the Colts didn't make it to the Super Bowl. Oh, wait a minute, you play football? Oh, you went to a Colt game? Oh, you play trombone? That's pretty cool. What do you like about playing trombone? And the guys just start, and I saw it last year, and the guys just start talking, and they realize that they have more in common than just being in the same patrol or in the same troop. So, and this year is for the first time, our troop guides are going to be working with the first-year scouts in meal planning. In the past, they teach them, and then the first years cook. What we've done this year is that the troop guides are the grub masters, and the troop guides are responsible for breakfast, dinner, and breakfast the next day. But what they're going to do is they've turned it into a skills demo. So for breakfast, they're going to pull 3 scouts out, and they're going to have those 3 scouts cook breakfast with their supervision.
Okay.
And then for dinner, they'll pull a different 3 scouts out and and have those 3 scouts cook dinner. And we have 2 patrols, but we're doing 4 cooking patrols because we have 4 troop guides. And we're going to see how that works. I think that might actually work really well because you're not going to overwhelm some first year with all the responsibilities of grub master, but yet everybody who attends this weekend is going to touch a stove.
Yep.
They're going to touch a stove and they're going to cook a meal.
Oh, guess what? And then you get another thing signed off in your book by that cool first-year guy.
Exactly. So for me well, go ahead if you had another thought there.
No, my actual thought was, what do you expect your scouts to take out of it? What are your thoughts on do you have any pointers on what you want your new scouts to take out of your first couple months?
Those, for me personally, those first few months are going to make or break a new scout. They're either going to fall in love with scouting and be there till the bitter end when they age out, and you got to drag them kicking and screaming out of the troop and into the adult leader position, or they're just going to have such a miserable time that they're gone. So those first few months will make or break a new scout, and those new scouts are the lifeblood of your troop. If you don't have a constant influx of good first-year scouts who enjoy scouting, you're not going to have a troop for very long. You got to get those scouts ready. Those first few months, you got to get them ready for scouting, but you got to make it fun, and you got to make them always feel welcomed, because a scout that doesn't like to come to the Tuesday meeting won't come to the Tuesday meeting anymore, and then you lost them. And I can tell you from experience, one poor year on that first year scouts patrol, one poor year can hurt you for years to come. We had one year where our recruitment was almost nil. We recruited about 6 new scouts, and 3 of them are left. And that's really, we had to merge them with an older patrol, but that's going to hurt us when guys start aging out. You could have a big gap in leadership. And as a scoutmaster or an assistant scoutmaster or any type of scouter, you got to be looking to the future. And with those first-year scouts, they're it. They're the future of your troop. They're going to be the leaders in the next 3-4 years, even 5 years, and they're going to be running this troop. So you got to make sure that first few months is a good one, and they'll stick around forever. Otherwise, you could be in trouble. How about you?
I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts other than I really agree with you. I got to say that as my new troop evolves, programming evolves, and we can talk about, that influx of new scouts in your troop. But if you just don't have the program, it's really moot. You're just not going to keep. If you have a bad program, it doesn't matter if new scouts are coming in. They're just going to go out the door as fast as they came in. And is it our job to make sure that the program ultimately is there? As a scoutmaster, yeah. But we do that through training our leaders and our young leaders and getting them to different things. In your case, you have white stag in your area, things of that nature. So I think that along with making sure you have that steady influx of new scouts, that you're getting them the proper program. And now whether you're doing them through, your troop's structured program where it's a little bit more regimented, or if it's loosey-goosey like mine. Will mine stay loosey-goosey? Probably not. It will probably end up getting to be a bit more structured as more scouts come in, as we expand the program. Right now, we're still working the program and getting the boys to follow along. Am I seeing dividends now? Of course. I'm seeing big dividends now. I'm seeing leadership coming out of boys who a year ago I thought they're an unmade bed. And just things of that nature. But I guess that would be my parting thought. New scouts, working your program, and getting your new scouts to believe in what your senior patrol leaders and the patrol leaders are teaching them will go all the way in helping you maintain a successful program and have recruitment classes like yours of 31 on an annual basis. You have 31 coming in, you have 5 going out. 31 coming in, 5 going out.
Yep.
And if I ever get to that point, God help the Moose Lodge, we're going to have to expand. So it's actually...
Well, you'll have enough guys, you'll be able to hire them as day labor and build an addition.
That's right, but with the way things are going with the lodge, we might just be looking at a new place anyways, and then that would help us out. So, I actually just got a ping from my wife, and it's time to end our meeting after the meeting, because I kind of owe her some ice cream, and actually I don't really owe her a whole lot of ice cream anymore. She's kind of sworn off some ice cream for a while, so I guess I just owe her maybe a hug. And I was supposed to be done a little while ago with this, but she understands that it's all important for Scout Nation to hear what we have to say. I would like it if you guys would follow me on Twitter. You can find me under Scoutmaster Sean, SM_Sean, or on Skype, my username there is Sean.Cleary, or whatever, and let me know what you have to say. Call me, drop me a line.
Excellent. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Spellman. It's BryanSpellman, or you can just drop me a line at Scoutmaster@troop199.org. And make sure you check out 100 Days of Scouting. We're still in the middle of that, and there's almost 30 of us blogging about scouting every day. Not just Sean and I, but a lot of good scouters out there. So keep up the good work and give a listen or give a look, and you're gonna see some really interesting, incredible things going on all over Scout Nation.
I will say that 100 Days of Scouting has been a real eye opener for me. It's kind of recharged my batteries, because it's nice to see the people who are getting on board with that. And lately, I know for me that I've gotten a whole bunch of new Twitter followers, and I've started following a lot more people, and it's a lot more Scout-centric. And once again, we're becoming that big, happy, dysfunctional family from around the country that each has our own little days where we can complete our conversations. And sometimes maybe getting those words of advice and things out there, if you could get out there and get those words out on the PTC media forums, we could use a little bit of action out there. Give us some ideas, Scout Nation. What do you want Brian and I to talk about? Heck, if you want, just let us know. You guys can come on and talk with us too. We love to talk scouting. I'm sure that we can plug you in, and we can do anything you guys want. Just let us know. I mean, can we come to your house? If you live between here and Indianapolis, we can maybe work something out. As long as they have a place for us to pitch our tents. One other thing, make sure that you visit over at PTC. I believe that the photo contest is coming down to an end. You might have one more week to get your submissions in there.
Excellent. Well, Sean, pleasure as always.
Sir?
Great talking with you. And everybody else, thank you, Scout Nation, for listening to us. We're going to have a chat, so join us on April 8th. That's Friday night. And let us know how you're doing in your corner of Scout Nation. Good night.
Good night.